마지막인 듯이 즐겨 커피 템템 막진 않을 테니 오늘 즐긴 겐생 말아도 돼? 이불 속에 들어갈 땐 baby 집 가는 게 기분이 나게 지금 이 기분을 잊지 않게 바라는 맘에 나와 즐겨줬으면 했어 You can never be more than 작정한 걸 준비해 손매는 것도 놓지 준비해 가볍게 살짝만 풀어도
Welcome back to the program. Here's a little preview of what's coming up on our show today. We have Extra Read All About It in the first hour with SJ Lee and Keyword News with Noram in the second. Our coverage today will include the story on the former wartime sexual slavery victim Lee Yong-soo's second press conference held yesterday, accusing an advocacy group of mishandling their funds, and we'll elaborate on the story. Even the wording of what she wants to be addressed as, there's a little bit of discrepancy there as well. China's contentious national security law, we have updates on that story, and of course our worldwide economic repercussions of COVID-19 story as well. There are a few segments that do rely on your feedback. I mean, you've heard the statement somewhere before that the future is here and how we do our jobs may have forever changed post COVID-19, that is. So today we decided on Send Your Thoughts to talk about tackling new challenges. According to one recent local survey, majority of adults in South Korea believe that there is a top cap to an age where we can take on new challenges, perhaps even fail and bounce back. Whether it be in our pursuit of higher education, better career, or even launching a new business, or even trying out stocks based on one colleague I know. Do you think there's an age limit to when you can tackle new challenges in life? Give us your 2 cents by visiting our official website, arirangradio.com. Click on Good Morning Seoul. The send message button should be on your left side. We also have our Today's Tunes segment, and the theme is your coastal road trip soundtrack. I know it sounds super fancy, but it does require a little bit of imagination. So do this with me, won't you? Close your eyes. Picture yourself driving down a coastal road. The sound of the beach waves crashing, the sun is blaring through your sunglasses, the breeze hitting your cheeks. What song is playing on your stereo? Give us your Coastal Road Trip soundtrack, same way, by visiting our official website, adirangradio.com. Click on Good Morning Seoul. The send message button is on the left side. If you're using the Arirang Radio app, click on the chat box icon.
Extra, extra, read all about it.
All right, it's time for us to get a look at our local dailies, and for that we have SJ Lee joining us in the studio. Good morning, SJ.
Good morning, Lena.
All right, so I know we talk about age and how things have changed for us and career-wise and so on forth. So I'm going to throw this question your way, tackling new challenges.
Yes.
Do you think there is an age limit as to when we can, well, stop tackling brand new challenges?
Never.
I like that.
Unless it's something that's like physically impossible.
That's a good point.
Like, for example, like I used to be very much into mixed martial arts, but ever since I dislocated both my shoulders, I know it's physically impossible for me to compete anymore. So
You dislocated both of your shoulders?
I have dislocated both my shoulders playing baseball. So yeah, now that Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, not in my plans anytime in the future anymore.
You put a pin in that one a long time ago. But as for tackling new challenges that don't require physical endurance, you're down for it, even at age 50, 60, 70?
I am a master of stock trading now.
Not master. Tread carefully there. The colleague I wasn't going to name, but he outed himself, is SJ. His newfound interest, safety first, as you always love to address. I think the same rule can apply to stock markets.
I
as
have
well.
only lost 14,001.
All right, guys. So, do you have SJ's can-do spirit? Give us your 2 cents. Tackling new challenges. Do you think there's a top cap to an age where you actually stop taking those risks? All right, it's time for us to take a look at our morning's local dailies. As always, SJ looks at our front page pictures. There's usually a dominant picture that stands out if there's a big story the night or the day before, and it seems like that was the case this morning as well.
Yeah, let's switch over to our serious mode now, because this was covered on all the local dailies this morning. Pictures of this in the front pages, including the Korea Herald as well. We're talking about, of course, the 92-year-old victim of the Japanese military sexual slavery, Lee Young-soo, which, by the way, that term I'm going to kind of hold back on a little bit, and you'll understand why.
We tread there rather carefully.
Yeah. So she held her second press conference over in Daegu yesterday, and it was a picture of her crying as she explained how this civic group took advantage of the victims. And she said the activist turned lawmaker-elect Yoo Mi-hyung, quote-unquote, used aged victims to raise funds and to help promote the cause of the group, which we were talking about the group Korean Council for Justice and Remembrance of the Issues of Military Sexual Slavery by Japan. Again, a long name. And so we'll continue to call it the Civic Group.
Yeah.
And she also claimed that the group has never spent funds and public donations for the victims.
If all of these accusations line up, they're not just serious. I think on the ethical front, it's also disheartening for anyone who may have taken part in the Wednesday protests, or anyone who has given even a small sum of money for the betterment and the treatment of these women, right?
And of course, these allegations were denied by Yoon and also the Civic Group as well. And so there's going to be an extensive investigation in regards to this.
That's right. There was another issue that she wanted to shed light on as well, and she being, of course, the victim herself, the 92-year-old victim, Young-soo.
Yeah, so this is an issue that I tread very carefully, and I still don't know how to kind of use the wordings of this. And for the longest time, the word comfort women
Was used.
and that was kind of a controversy as well. And so
Because the word comfort has kind of a much more softer connotation to it, and is that misleading? So we shifted gears and started labeling it a wartime sexual slavery victim. But if the victims actually veto that terminology, where do we stand as far as how we address
and
the victims
so
themselves?
we've kind of been using the term so-called comfort women. And again, I'm treading this very carefully. She also argued that the whole comfort women issue should be handled independently from those women who were forced to work in the Japanese factories during the war.
I think that's important because she actually openly criticized the advocacy group for failing to make that distinction between the very different kinds of forced laborers. And and the reason is if we group all of them into one, I think it does sort of minimize the severity of one issue over another.
Yeah, and so with that, she
Yeah.
also strongly objected to being called a sex slave.
Yeah.
And so, again, we're going to try carefully and call it the so-called comfort women.
Okay.
She also laid out a rather interesting and vague idea as an alternative to the weekly rally, because remember, unless this is resolved, that she might not attend the
Right.
Wednesday weekly protest in front of the former Japanese embassy in Seoul, right? And so what she said was maybe Korean and Japanese students could meet up regularly to learn accurate history. So she didn't say that the weekly protest should be stopped, but laid out this plan that could potentially work out.
And she also, of course, addressed the importance of historical lessons, accurate history classes
yes.
for the Korean and the Japanese students.
Exactly.
Yeah, okay. So that's where we stand today. We'll definitely have more updates throughout the week. Now, turning our attention to the grim economic outlook that faces not just South Korea but the world, but the president of South Korea is calling for what he's calling a wartime-like aggressive fiscal policy to cope with the economic crisis stemming from the COVID-19 pandemic on Monday. What can you tell us?
Yeah, so this was covered on the front pages of all the locals' dailies this morning as
Okay.
well. And again, we're hearing words like wartime quite a bit. And I
Right.
think, so far we've seen quite a bit of measures done by the government into, helping the economy a bit. But again, we're not done yet. And so he was speaking at a annual fiscal strategy meeting over at the Cheongwon, where he was quoted as saying, "The bottom of the global